Tome of Adventure Design is one of the best resources for creating adventures and running games. It is a must-have if you are a DM creating adventures for any fantasy system, whether OSR, 5th edition, Pathfinder, Shadowdark, or whatever else. Originally published in 2009, the tome received an update in 2022 by Mythmere Games. The Tome of Adventure Design is written by OSR mastermind Matt Finch, the man behind Swords and Wizardry and the renowned Old School Primer. The tome is definitely the correct word for the book. It is a massive 500 pages crammed with hundreds of rollable tables to help generate adventure sites, monsters, dungeon contents, tricks, traps, and much, much more. The tome has a distinctive cover. I always prefer a illustration on the front of a book instead of some basic graphic, but this is fairly inoffensive. It matches quite well with the design style of Swords and Wizardry rulebook as well. The cover has a matte finish with a slightly odd, smooth texture. The pages are somewhat glossy, relatively thick. It seems fairly good quality and hopefully will stand up to continual use. I would have liked to have seen at least one ribbon though. There are occasional grey and white illustrations, but the majority of the book is taken up with tables. I'll take you through some of the best tables in the book and roll up some things, but first, let's take a look at some of the articles in the book that help guide you in its use. The primary goal of the Tome of Adventure Design is to generate a whole lot of random, sometimes contradictory ideas which can be used as rolled to generate an adventure, or better still, combined to generate new ideas in the creator's head. As Matt writes in the introduction, the fundamental tool I've tried to build into these books isn't creativity per se, it's a human trait known as apophenia. Our ability to look at a set of unrelated things and find a pattern in them. The obvious example is the way people perceive shapes and pictures in a mass of clouds. This pattern perceiving engine in our minds can be harnessed as a powerful tool for creativity. The most difficult part of a project is the beginning, staring at the proverbial blank page before starting. Writing an adventure is no different, and what this book does is to provide several starting points to get the apophenia engine moving. And this is exactly how the book is used, as I will show you later. When generating prompts from the table, one automatically starts to make associations and a picture of the location, monster, spell, or adventure begins to form in the mind. Eventually, one needs to start throwing ideas away. There are simply too many. Eventually, you will have so many ideas in your head that you may not need to continue rolling. The adventure is already forming in your head. The first chapter deals with the creation of the adventure overview, providing a list of necessary elements required to make a good adventure, including backstory, location, opposition, variation of challenge, exploration, race against time, resource management, milestones and conclusions, and continuation options. Most of these sections have tables associated with them, and by following the instructions, one should be able to produce a good adventure. These general principles are well explained, and this is a good checklist to come back to, even if not relying on the tables in the book. A lot of the tables in the book have a brief explanation on how it should be used, and any other tables which relate to it. Section 1, Principles and Starting Points, is 70 pages. Section 2, Monster Design, is 100 pages. Section 3, Dungeon Design, is 220 pages, and Section 4, Non-Dungeon Adventures, is 80 pages. Chapter 3 is the main bulk of the book, and goes into great detail about how to generate the elements of the dungeon. There is a guide to how to create the basic elements of a dungeon adventure, and a kind of step-by-step guide on how to produce the backstory, map, and contents of the dungeon. It's not necessary to use all the tables while creating the dungeon, and jumping around between the different tables is advised. Of particular note are the Tricks and Traps section, which are very comprehensive, ranging from fairly simple traps to Grimtooth-esque machinations of complexity. The final section deals with wilderness and urban adventures, and is perhaps the weakest section of the book. While there is a lot of good stuff here, it is a broader scope and less detailed than the dungeon section. All throughout the book there are random prompts along the edge of the page. These are designed to quickly help add ideas into the reader's mind. A great idea and very useful. Before I get on to showing you how easily the book can be used to generate ideas, I want to highlight some of the complaints I have. I'd like to stress that overall this book is excellent. However, some small improvements would help to make it even better if the tome is ever revised again. The primary issue is that the book is unwieldy. It is a massive book with loads of content, but I think that the layout could be improved. The formatting of the tables leaves too much space between each entry, which ends up bloating the book and spreading the tables across too many pages. This results in 200 pages more than the 2011 version. For example, one of the largest tables is used to generate patrons and targets for a mission. It has 1,000 entries and is spread across 14 pages. In the original Adventure Design tome, this was done in 7 pages by spreading the results over 3 columns instead of 2. While the font and design of the revised version looks cleaner, the original 2011 version is more usable. Too many tables are spread across multiple pages, and page flipping becomes an inevitability. Not only is this slightly annoying, it increases the chance of damage to the pages. Another example is the table of contents, which is very difficult to pass. It is more detailed than the one-page contents of the 2011 version, but the division of different sections is not very clear. It takes much longer to find what you're looking for. The list of tables and index at the back of the book are better formatted and easier to use than the contents. There was no reason to make the contents as bloated and as unusable as this. The problem of formatting is not exclusive to the print version. I find it much more difficult to use the PDF when scrolling back and forth through a bunch of pages, all of which look very similar. There could have been more effort to differentiate the sections as well. Instead of the section being written at the bottom of the page in small text, a different design or an image could be used for each chapter. The formatting is neat, but usability suffers. Tables are spread over too many pages when they could be condensed. I do not envy the task of layout for this book. I imagine it was very difficult, but I feel the original version did it slightly better. Before we explore the book more deeply, I'd like to let you know about the adventure that I will be releasing today as this video goes out. Hark, noble dungeon master, hear my tale of Uzul Balashi, whose fate did fail. A wizard once of power and renown, now cursed to wear a slug's grotesque crown. Within his mansion 80 rooms await, with treasures grand but dangers great. Traps and monsters guard those treasures rare, and arcane secrets do linger there. Guide thy brave players through these perilous halls to catacombs where a dark secret calls. Designed for BX and other old-school systems, Slug House has 80 rooms, new monsters and magic items, wonderful artwork, a 3-level map, and promises weeks of exciting adventure. Grab it at DriveThruRPG and enjoy a 25% discount until September 10th. Slug House! Buy it now! Let's run through how one may wish to use the book in creating an adventure and see what we come up with and how quickly we can do that. The necessary elements of an adventure according to this book are the following: a backstory, what turned this location into an adventure site, an adventure location, which must be something interesting, opposition, an interesting or unique antagonist somehow related to the backstory, variations of challenge, combat, trap, tricks, navigation and negotiation, exploration, a strange and intriguing place with the possibility of getting lost, a race against time, consequences which force resource management forces players to make decisions, milestones and conclusions, places that signal some kind of victory such as defeating a boss or learning some backstory, and continuation options, somewhere for the characters to go next. Now I'm going to cover most of these by rolling on the tables, but perhaps not all of them. So we'll start with an adventure location. First, I like to generate the name of the adventure site. This comes in the form of the quintessential dungeon title, Adjective Noun of the Adjective Noun. In this case, I've rolled the Wooden Cellars of the Insect Exterminator. While Wooden Cellar is not particularly interesting, I like the idea of the Insectoid Executioner with an executioner's hood and a headman's axe. I'm going to re-roll the adventure site name though, and get the Crimson Marsh of the Wraith Hag. Much more evocative. So, opposition. I will move on to the villain itself and find his motivation or villainous plan. In this case, I've rolled that the villain is trying to increase the evil reputation of an ally, suggesting that this is the minion of a greater villain. And with each execution the insectoid does, the fear of his master grows. The aforementioned Wraith Hag can be the greater villain, and the executioner can serve her. Let's move on to the next section of the book and actually generate the villain. I roll on the Verminous Creature table and discover that he is a paralysis-inducing cockroach. I'm going to use the Special Defenses and Ability table to generate splits or fissions when attacked with fire. This will be an unpleasant surprise for the party, and perhaps I can orchestrate a situation where they are more likely to attack him with fire. In fact, I have the idea that if the creature is killed with fire, it will explode into a cockroach swarm. I also generate movement type for the villain and get burrow, allowing the creature to easily ambush the party. Next, the race against time. Before developing the adventure site itself, I want to generate the race against time, which should not only compel the party to explore the adventure site, but also to resolve the adventure in a timely fashion. I rolled that the party's patron suffers from a condition which will kill him, and the party will not be paid if they take too long. I'm going to interpret this result a bit differently and consider that the local villagers hold the quest giver, in this case a local lord, responsible for the murders being carried out by the insectoid executioner. If the party do not slay the beast soon, there will be an uprising, and the populace will offer the lord as a sacrifice to the Wraith Hag. A backstory. Next, I am going to come up with a quick backstory. We discover that the inhabitants of the area now known as the Crimson Marsh abandoned it after some strange omens 10 years ago. Perhaps the area was not particularly marshy at the time, but with the arrival of the Wraith Hag, the land became sodden and the buildings once there were abandoned. I think we'll need to generate some ideas for what exactly happened, how it occurred, and why the Wraith Hag has made her home here, but for now, let's not worry about that. Exploration. There are some swamp-specific tables in the wilderness section of the book, so I'll roll up a few results there and get the result of flowers. I interpret this as the marsh is crimson because of strange red flowers that grow all over the place. Perhaps they have some magical property or could be dangerous to explorers. There is also a legend of a moss shambler. This sounds like a terrifying creature, especially in addition to the insectoid executioner and the Wraith Hag. Perhaps the moss shambler could somehow be an ally to the party. Finally, I roll that there is a swamp gas that causes weakness and nausea. The Crimson Marsh is going to be quite a dangerous place by the looks of things. I can, in fact, link that to the resource management section of the adventure. Let's say the locals provide some herbs which prevent the nauseating effects of the swamp gas, but the herbs only work for 2 hours per dose, and they have only a limited number of doses to give. After only 10 minutes or so, I have a pretty good idea of the adventure, and I could continue designing without rolling any more results, relying only on the tables when I draw a blank during the creation process. There are great tables for coming up with what the room next in the dungeon might contain, tables for tricks and traps, and good ones for room contents. But for now, I think that we have a good foundation for an adventure, and perhaps in the future I'll flesh it out a bit more. There is an application available which contains all these tables to speedily roll through them to generate a dungeon. I've not used it, but I don't really like the use of apps when a book will suffice. In this case, I think the act of rolling the tables and seeing the other results as you go along is a little bit better. as more ideas appear in your peripheral vision, and the slowness of the process helps to imagine the results while you're rolling. The application may be more useful to generate things at the table, if you have a computer while you're playing or if you're playing online. As it is not really designed to be used during play, I would suggest rolling up a dozen or so results from your favourite tables, noting them down for quick use during your game. Print off a few of the best tables for your DM folder, for example room contents, types of doors, statues, etc. These can be good things to have ready in the moment. Overall, this is an essential book. There are so many useful tables here that are guaranteed to help you in adventure creation. My complaints about the unwieldiness of the book are far outweighed by its usefulness. This tome is $60, including the PDF, and is available at the Mythmere web store. The PDF is available from DriveThruRPG. What do you think of this book? Has it helped you to write better adventures? Let me know in the comments. If you'd like to help support this channel, then you can pick up one of my books at DriveThruRPG, including the newly released Slug House, or you can join my new Patreon. The links are in the description, and as always, thanks for watching.